Hello guys, welcome back. And today, we're going to be talking about Connor McDavid and if he should ask for a trade. Now, Edmonton is on track to miss the NHL playoffs for the second straight year, and after a brutal loss to the Ottawa Senators in overtime, should Connor McDavid consider asking for a trade? Watch till the end to find out. Now, the Edmonton Oilers are a disastrous franchise. I don't think that's news to anybody watching, but Connor McDavid asking for a trade would be huge news to the whole sports world, and it might come sooner than you might think. Now, this year was looked at as a year that the Edmonton Oilers would improve in a lot of different areas as a team and a franchise. And after last year's very disappointing season, the year before that, going into the second round, this was looked at as a year where they would rebound in the standings too. And so far, of course, that has not been the case. They have been very average. And in a year where they fired Peter Chiarelli, they've somehow found a way to get even worse. Now, the Edmonton Oilers, as I'm recording this, have a 33-34-8 record. Not going to have to make the playoffs, even in that terribly weak Western Conference. And again, this was a year that was looked at as they would be improving offensively, depth-wise, defensively, and goaltending. It was looked at as a year that they couldn't possibly get worse than last year. And although the record and the points aren't as bad as last year, it just feels a lot worse for that whole franchise. And with McDavid being in the situation that he is right now, I can't help but feel bad for the guy. While he's making millions upon millions of dollars, I still think for him to be in the position he's in, it's a pretty miserable spot for him to be. The captain of such a bad franchise at this point, it's a big burden for him to take on, and of course the team around him isn't helping him whatsoever. And in a year where the offense, depth-wise, has been terrible, the defense has been super inconsistent, and the goaltending has just been really rough, one guy has still found some room to improve in his game, and that's been Connor McDavid. Throughout this whole season, I've been so impressed by how he's handled this situation, how he's handled this terrible franchise, and being the captain of the team, this Edmonton Oilers team would be just a hard task for anybody, but Connor McDavid has handled it well for a guy that young, which is so surprising for how good he is. And Connor McDavid has just been in another world this season, tying his points marker from last season, and the Oilers still have quite a bit of games left as well, so he's just been a fantastic player offensively, defensively, in my opinion, the best player in the world, helping guys like Leon Draisaitl and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins become kind of stars in their own right. But McDavid, even though he's had amazing on-ice performance, of course, the off-ice performance is what I think really speaks to how good of a player he is. Again, being the captain of this Edmonton Oilers team, I know myself I wouldn't be up to that task, but Connor McDavid has stayed calm, he's stayed collected, and for the Edmonton Oilers, they must thank him just for that alone. Now, just imagine you're the Edmonton Oilers captain for a second. Yes, you. And just imagine how much burden you would have and how easy it could be to blast that ownership and say how bad mistakes there were, how bad ownership is right now. Imagine how easy it would be. I mean, I would certainly have that temptation. But Connor McDavid has come out and done none of that. He's been fine, he's been collected, and even though we've seen him frustrated at times, he hasn't really said too much. He's more attacking some of his teammates than he is the ownership. Would take some guts, and Connor McDavid has done that so far, which I'm the most surprised by, because at this point, he kind of had to lash out, but Connor McDavid has stayed cool, which is the most impressive part. And how many questions and how many hard questions he's had to be asked throughout the season is almost unimaginable. After every game, after every practice, it's non-stop. And the Edmonton Oilers have had a ton of drama throughout the season that Connor McDavid has to answer for, as well as his teammates, but mostly with Connor McDavid. And for what he's shown this season, again, the on-ice performance is obviously fantastic, but the off-ice performance really shows to me that he is the perfect captain for the Edmonton Oilers. And while the Edmonton Oilers aren't really giving him anything to really work with, besides guys like Leon Draisaitl, he has been amazing for them, and in my opinion, he has been the perfect captain this season. And when you're that good, when you're the best player in the entire NHL, missing the playoffs for 2 straight seasons should never happen. With Sidney Crosby, he was the best player in the world for a decade and a half, I would say. But I think he missed the playoffs like 3 times total in his career. I don't know if that's exact, but he hasn't missed the playoffs a lot, and he's obviously won quite a bit of Stanley Cups. But when it comes to Connor McDavid, he is the best player on the planet right now. He should deserve playoffs at least every single year. future, and he's not getting that because of the ownership and the management that has screwed around with the team for so long now. I mean, it's been that way for a long time in Edmonton, but it's been exacerbated because of Connor McDavid being there. But the ownership, I think, is to blame. The management is to blame. And while the players obviously have something to do with it, the team itself is just not good enough. And if I had to blame this Edmonton Oilers dumpster fire on somebody, I'm blaming it on the owner, Daryl Katz. I'm not blaming it on past GMs, past coaches, or anybody else. I'm blaming it on the owner, Daryl Katz, because he has gone through so many coaches, so many GMs. At this point, he is the problem, and he's the reason why the Edmonton Oilers cannot change right now. That's been that way for pretty much the past decade. We've seen so much new guys come in and fail, and at that point, you have to strike gold with at least somebody, but he just has not been able to keep that consistency in the locker room and with the franchise. And when it comes to that culture around him, it's a toxic one where Daryl Katz makes pretty much all the decisions, and at this point, all the wrong ones. And I'm kind of starting to go a little bit, I'm starting to change my opinion on Peter Chiarelli, because at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Daryl Katz was the guy managing him all along, managing the GM to a point where Peter Chiarelli couldn't even make his own decisions. And to me, that's why Daryl Katz is so bad, and of course, that's why he needs to go. You can start a hashtag Katz out or Melnick out, kind of like that. Anything to get Daryl Katz out of that Oilers franchise will be the best for the Edmonton Oilers. Yes, he did get them that fancy new arena, but he needs to actually claim some responsibility for how bad the Oilers have been. He can't keep going through coaches, going through scouting staffs, going through GMs. At this point, it's getting old for me and a lot of Oilers fans, and that's been that way for a long time. But when it comes to Daryl Katz, in my opinion, he is the guy that's ruining the franchise, and right now, ruining Connor McDavid's career. And at this point, the Edmonton Oilers have had so many misses of the playoffs, so many bad starts and bad seasons. At this point, another bad season is not going to change that Oilers management. It is not going to change that Oilers ownership. And at this point, to me personally, the only thing that will get that Oilers team to change is if Connor McDavid either asks for a trade or if he's actually traded. And that is a dim future for the Edmonton Oilers, but it's one that they might need to make, because with this current ownership, it is so bad, so troubled, and it is just so stupid, in my opinion, that something large like that needs to happen for that Oilers team to change. We haven't seen it with past bad seasons. That hasn't changed them at all. And the mindset they have is so bad for today's NHL that trading a guy like Connor McDavid might just be the final nail in the coffin. Now, Connor McDavid, to me, seems like a pretty loyal dude. We haven't really seen him go up to ownership, and we haven't really seen him stand up for himself yet, but that might change in my personal opinion. He hasn't really cracked yet, but if the Edmonton Oilers continue to miss the playoffs, I feel like he'll start to get a lot more frustrated than he is currently. And obviously, it's hard to imagine being that good of a player, but if I was in his shoes, I would 100% ask for a trade, and I would have done that maybe even a year ago. Just because of the trades that Chiarelli and the ownership have made, it's enough for me to want to go to another, more successful franchise. And with the Edmonton Oilers, it's kind of like a sinking ship at this point. They've been sinking for a long time, and they're already down in the water, just like the Titanic was. And the Edmonton Oilers just are in that position to where they can't really do much for Connor McDavid. They don't really have too much cap space. They can't really make too many moves anyways. And for Connor McDavid, he's stuck just carrying a team that honestly is not good around him. And obviously, if I was in his position, I would ask for a trade, but Connor McDavid obviously is a different person. We don't know his stance on this issue, but in my personal opinion, if the Oilers continue to go down this road of disappointment after disappointment, it'll only be a matter of time before Connor McDavid lashes out at ownership or just straight up asks for a trade. And while a potential Connor McDavid trade or just him asking for a trade might seem absolutely crazy, if the Oilers continue down this road, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually happens. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about Connor McDavid and his situation with the Edmonton Oilers? Do you see a potential trade happening, and do you see him asking for a trade? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my video on Eugene Melnick and the really bad comments that he made recently. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on Connor McDavid and if he should ask for a trade. And I'll see you guys in the next video. or stream. Goodbye.